Trust is often described as something simple. You either have it or you don't. But for some people, trust has never felt simple. It feels calculated, measured, gradual. You don't automatically believe what people say. You observe. You compare words with behavior. You wait for consistency. And because of that, others may describe you as guarded, distant, or hard to read. You weren't born distrustful. No one is. As children, trust is instinctive. We assume safety. We assume sincerity. But over time, experiences shape perception. Broken promises, subtle betrayals, inconsistencies that didn't match explanations, moments when vulnerability was met with disappointment instead of care. Each of these experiences teaches the nervous system something important. Caution reduces risk. For some people, that lesson becomes deeply internalized. You learn that words are cheap. You learn that intentions can shift. You learn that closeness creates exposure, and exposure creates potential pain. So instead of moving toward connection quickly, you slow down. You analyze. You test. You observe how someone behaves under pressure. Trust for you is not based on charm. It is based on patterns. Anyone can appear kind for a week. Anyone can say the right things in the beginning. What you look for is consistency over time. Do their actions align with their promises? Do they show up when it is inconvenient? Do they respect boundaries when you set them? These are the markers your mind tracks automatically. Because you're slow to trust, you may also be slow to open up. You don't reveal everything immediately. You share in layers. You watch how people handle small pieces of vulnerability before offering larger ones. This is not manipulation. It is protection. Your nervous system prefers evidence over optimism. People who trust easily often project their own sincerity onto others. They assume good intent until proven otherwise. You may operate differently. You assume neutrality until trust is earned, not because you expect harm, but because you understand unpredictability. Life has shown you that appearances can be misleading. You might also be highly observant. You notice tone shifts, micro-expressions, hesitation before agreement. You sense when someone is performing rather than being authentic. That perception makes blind trust nearly impossible. You see too much to surrender quickly. Sometimes this caution isolates you. Others bond faster. They form alliances quickly. They confide early. Watching that can make you question yourself. Are you too guarded? Too skeptical? Too analytical? But skepticism is not cynicism. Skepticism is delayed belief. It is a request for proof before emotional investment. Trusting slowly also means you attach deeply when you do trust, because it takes time to earn access to your inner world. Those who pass that threshold matter profoundly. You do not treat loyalty casually. You do not forget consistency. You remember who stood still when others shifted. There may have been a period in your life when you trusted too quickly, when you assumed mutual intention, when you overlooked subtle warning signs. If that period ended painfully, the adjustment afterward can feel dramatic. The pendulum swings from openness to caution. And once you have experienced a trail, your mind becomes efficient at detecting potential risk. Not trusting easily is not always about trauma. Sometimes it is about pattern recognition. When you have observed enough contradictions in people, your brain prioritizes verification. It becomes less enchanted by words and more interested in behavior. However, caution has a cost. It can delay intimacy. It can make you appear emotionally distant. It can create misunderstandings when others interpret your reserve as disinterest. But inside, your hesitation is not indifference. It is calculation. You're asking one question repeatedly. Is this safe? Safety for you is not about physical danger. It is about psychological reliability. Can this person handle disagreement without hostility? Can they respect boundaries without resentment? Can they remain consistent when emotions fluctuate? Until those questions are answered, you remain observant. Trust in your world is not given. It is built. As you grow older, your approach to trust may become more refined rather than more rigid. You start recognizing the difference between healthy caution and defensive isolation. Healthy caution asks for consistency. Defensive isolation assumes betrayal. The distinction is subtle but important. If you don't trust easily, you may also struggle with vulnerability. Vulnerability requires uncertainty. It requires allowing someone access before you have complete proof of safety. For someone wired to analyze risk, that feels uncomfortable. You want guarantees. But human relationships rarely offer guarantees. They offer probabilities. Because you evaluate people carefully, you may value stability more than excitement. Flashy personalities do not impress you as much as steady ones. You pay attention to how someone behaves when they are stressed, tired, or challenged. Anyone can be kind when comfortable. Character reveals itself under strain. You may also have strong internal boundaries. You do not tolerate repeated disrespect. You withdraw quietly when patterns feel inconsistent. Others may not always understand why you step back, because your decision is based on accumulated micro-observations rather than a single dramatic event. There is also an internal paradox. While you hesitate to trust others, you may hold yourself to high standards of loyalty. You expect from yourself what you hope to see in others: consistency, honesty, accountability. When those qualities are absent externally, disappointment feels sharper. Some people interpret your slow trust as arrogance, as if you believe others must prove themselves. In reality, you are simply protecting your emotional bandwidth. Trusting deeply requires investment, and investment without reliability is costly. The challenge is ensuring that caution does not become loneliness. If every potential relationship is treated as high risk, opportunities for connection shrink. The key is not lowering standards. It is differentiating between red flags and ordinary human imperfection. No one is perfectly consistent. The question is whether inconsistency is occasional or patterned. When you learn to calibrate trust rather than withhold it entirely, relationships become more balanced. You allow gradual access instead of complete exposure. You communicate boundaries instead of silently testing people. You observe without assuming the worst. Not trusting easily can also be a strength in professional settings. It allows you to evaluate partnerships carefully, to notice manipulation early, to avoid impulsive commitments. Many strategic thinkers operate this way. They gather data before committing resources. Emotional investment is no different. Over time, you may realize that your cautious nature is not a flaw, but a filtering system. It reduces chaos. It prioritizes reliability. It protects depth. But filters must be adjusted, not sealed shut. If no one passes through, protection turns into isolation. The goal is not blind trust, nor is it permanent suspicion. The goal is informed trust. Trust built on observed consistency rather than emotional intensity. Trust that grows with evidence. If you don't trust people easily, it may be because your mind values stability over impulse. You are not cold. You are deliberate. You are not distant. You are selective. And when you finally trust someone, it is not casual. It is intentional. For some people, trust is spontaneous. For you, it is earned, and earned trust, once given, is rarely shallow. That does not make you broken. It makes you careful. And sometimes, careful is exactly what keeps depth intact in a world that moves too quickly. If you recognize yourself in this pattern, the work is not to become naive. It is to become balanced, to allow connection without abandoning discernment, to open gradually without ignoring instinct. Trust, for you, will never be immediate, but it can be meaningful.